Just that one reason is enough to believe that digital platforms will stay. Right now, what has started happening is IITs have started teaching design. Majority of the students are flocking to IITs because of यार IIT में जाना है.
Hey, thank you so much for joining us on Grow with Graphy. Thank you so much for giving us your time. I am your host, Cheyenne, and today on this episode, we will do a deep dive into the field of design, creativity, and innovation. Joining us as a guest, we have a visionary in the field of design. This person is an entrepreneur, he is an artist, and also a fellow podcaster. Sanjay Reddy, thank you so much for joining us on Grow with Graphy.
Thank you, Shayan. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. And I'm super excited to be on a podcast as a guest. I think this is just the second time that I'm as a guest on a podcast.
Oh, is it? I hope this will be better than your first experience in that case. You're a busy man. I don't want to take up too much of your time. Let's straight away get into the conversation. What we have you here for. Let's start with a little bit about yourself. Your journey, how you've been an artist, an entrepreneur, and a podcast host.
Right. So initially started with engineering, जैसे बाकी सारे Indians करते हैं, mechanical engineering, and then I decided कि यार इसमें तो मज़ा आ नहीं रहा है. Like I don't really enjoy doing this, and then I started exploring the field of, let's say, arts, and I started exhibiting during my bachelor's in engineering here in Delhi, and couple of exhibitions into it, and then I decided, okay, there could be something called design, जिसमें कुछ कर सकते हैं, which is related to, let's say, something artsy that I would want to be involved with for the rest of my life. And that's how it all started, to be honest, and didn't know about design until 2012, 2013. So no exposure whatsoever, but I always had this creative thing going on the side. So that's how I got into design, took up masters later in design, and I went to Italy for that. Did my masters in Italy, and came back thinking that I wanted to start something on my own. Briefly freelanced there for a bit, came back, started something on my own, and that's how it all started. Like teaching, mentoring, design, practice, etc.
All right, but how did your journey into content creation begin, for that matter?
Yeah. So 2019 was when I thought, okay, I could also start mentoring design aspirants because I had a very tough transition into design. So I did not know what to do when it was about getting into design because technical field mein it's very different. And it was a very big struggle. I didn't exactly have any mentor then. And so I thought I should solve that problem now. I went to schools to do webinars or small sessions where I can talk about design. And I realized that out of 100 or 120 students sitting in front of me, there would be only 10 to 15 students who would know about design. So that itself was one of the major things that I noticed. Okay, I have to change this. Why don't people know about design? So that's when I started teaching, mentoring, and 2020 uh, is when I was like, we were sitting in our homes for the most of the year. And that's when I started having conversations with designers, my inner circle, my friends. And that's when I started posting those conversations online. That's how it all started for me. The whole podcast thing, the videos and everything. That was the beginning of it.
Okay, let's talk about your initial pivoting points. You did talk about it a bit, but the pivot into pursuing a career in design.
Right. So in back in 2014, there was a contest called Red Bull Doodle Art Competition, which happened for the first time. And it was a global event, but each country would have individual winners. And I was in the top a few people who were shortlisted in India. That's when I thought, okay, whatever I'm doing, there is something meaningful.
टैलेंट है मुझ में, हाँ.
Kuch to hai, so I have to pursue this. That's when I started taking it seriously, and I researched a bit, like if not artist, because artist ko paisa kahan milta hai, you know. So what do I do with this? That's when the whole thought process started. Okay, there is something called design, and I could do, use my thinking and my skills and do something meaningful.
Right, I get to be an artist and I get to earn money as well, for that matter. Okay, developing the idea of Design X Studio, and it's your mission to create an online course to guide students, as you mentioned a while back in the interview itself. Can you talk about that?
Yes. So it was again 2019 was the year that changed a lot of things for me. And June, July, I was thinking. So I visited CBSE as well. I spoke to the people who introduce courses and curriculums and understood why design is not a part of it. To my surprise, there are electives on design. It's just that it is not practical for a lot of schools to afford one single teacher for that one subject. That's why they do not offer that in schools. So that's when I decided, okay, I have to start. To solve this problem, there has to be something, a different entity that has to do this. I cannot go as a tutor. It won't make that impact. So that's how I came to the decision of registering my own firm and then starting it officially. That's how it all started.
Okay. So in our country, we have a lot of people who have made the transition from engineering into something else, into the performing world. And so you, if I'm not wrong, you were a mechanical engineer. And then you made your transition into designing. Do you think somehow it helps your background in engineering, mechanical engineering for that matter?
um for the design aspect of it, whatever I'm doing now, I do not think it has a direct impact on it, but engineering has given me the attitude, देखा जाएगा. जो भी होगा
कर
देख
लेंगे,
लेंगे.
संभाल लेंगे.
That's what engineering has given to me.
All right, that's a very different touch to what generally is the answer. Has generally, if you ask somebody has an engineering background, helps. मैं पढ़ा भी नहीं था, which is why I shifted from engineering to this thing. But yeah, that attitude of कि हो जाएगा, कर लेंगे.
देख लेंगे.
देख लेंगे, कर लेंगे, कुछ तो हो जाएगा. Okay, if you could tell us a little bit about your journey becoming an online design educator. You told me what inspired you to pursue that, but how is it like when you put your content out there? Did you start getting good response from people from day one itself, or आपको लगा पहले कि यार कोई तो देख नहीं रहा है, क्यों बना रहा हूँ? How did that process happen?
Right. So initially, when it started, I had an offline studio here in Noida itself, Sector 18 mein. Uh, it was a makeshift office, so I did my design practice also there, and then evening mein I used to teach aspirants and students along with a friend of mine. And 2019 November, I started thinking कि यार I am not getting the scale. मेरे को I don't want to be limited by this region. I don't want to attract only Noida ke students. So I started thinking about an online course. And that's when I recorded a few of the sessions and I launched an online course. And that's when I went on looking for platforms where I can host my courses. Yeah. And that's how I met with Sandeep also. Then it was Pay, which is now acquired by Graphy. Now it's called Graphy, the platform. So the initial days of this platform, I was there in their office talking about how I can make this happen because design exams are different than the others. So we had to do some back end work. So we did that sitting in their office.
For how many years has it been actually?
Little more than 4.
Little more than 4. That's quite some time. So you did tell us about what inspired you to start your journey of online content creation of YouTube and stuff. But मुझे ये बताइए कि जब आपने शुरू किया, how did the process become of you getting eyeballs and you getting some people coming into your channel and watching your content and giving you feedback? वो पहले दिन से बहुत सही था, or over time you persisted and then it grew?
Initially, it was not good. It was not at all what we expected. So usually क्या होता है कि we think that we are making the best content and we think that okay यार ये तो बहुत अच्छा शूट किया है, इसको डालूंगा तो बस हो जाएगा. But that doesn't happen. And when we started posting, I think 3-4 videos, the response wasn't as we thought it would be. And then we went back and we understood कि यार हमें content किस पे बनाना है, what do we need to make content on, what is that topic. So we needed some more understanding of our target customers, target users. We wanted to empathize with them, we wanted to understand what their psyche is, so we started doing that. And once we were able to crack that, and I think उसके बाद जो 5-6 videos थे, they are still the most watched videos on our YouTube channel. So that pulled a lot of eyeballs, and that actually changed the game for us. And that same strategy, so we started solving previous year papers on YouTube, and that we posted on our channels. And उस time पे ऐसे कोई videos available थे नहीं design exams के लिए. So we always focused on finding that gap and filling it. That is the major thing that I think we still keep doing. Uh, Although there are a few आते हैं business में, competitors are there. It's good to have competitors. So what you've done this year, the next year people will copy. So every year there's a need for reinvention and reconsideration. So it's an ongoing process.
Right, and kudos to you that it's often very easy to get disappointed with content creation, but persisting and trying, acha theek hai, ye nahi chal raha hai, but we'll persist with it. We have to find a solution. Kudos to you for that, and of course that has helped a lot of design students in our country. You're an entrepreneur now. How do you find time to put everything and together and make everything time to be consistent on with your content creation for that matter?
I would have to give credit to my team, because without the team, I don't think I'd be doing any of this. Uh, and apart from that, if I'd have to talk about my schedule and my timelines, so in the morning, I would do whatever my design practice is, working with clients, up till evening. Evening starts with mentorship, and whenever I have podcasts, it's mostly post dinner. That's how it is. Yeah, that's how I've kept on with this. And for the content creation side of it, uh, let it be Instagram or YouTube for that matter. It was mostly on weekends. That's what I use weekends for. So ये तो मतलब for the first 2.5 years I didn't take a break. Full on hustle.
Superb. Design, for that matter, is also a very creative work, which I guess requires you to come up with new ideas and staying current. How do you manage to do that, for that matter? What is your creative process like?
So everything starts from the design brief. What does the client want? I think most of the problems are solved if I'm having a good conversation with my client. If I'm able to understand what the client really needs, तब मैं वो बोल सकता हूँ जो उस client को समझ आएगा. Agar I am not able to understand what the client wants, then I'll not be able to speak the language that he will understand. So the first and the foremost thing is that initial discovery session that needs to happen, and then uske baad we go back and try to keep the client involved in every stage of the process, so that we take them along, so we avoid the situation where we end up saying कि यार ये तो कुछ और ही बन गया, ये तो बनना ही नहीं था. So
Gotcha.
yeah, that's how I think the most important thing, according to me, on my experience, based on my experience, is that to understand what the client really needs, and if it is even a problem to be solved. कई बार ऐसे होते हैं कि I've also told clients that no, you don't need a solution to this problem, and I think you can just leave this problem and solve the other one, where I see that, okay, that is the bigger problem that you need to solve.
You talked about being a pen and paper guy. Here's my question to you that being a designer is one thing, being an artist is one thing, and being a businessman, for that matter, entrepreneur, is something completely different. How was it navigating the world of business for that matter?
Uh, wasn't an easy journey.
Right.
I still think I have a lot to learn, because being a creative person, it's a different mindset altogether. First of all, I had to change the mindset of being an engineer to a designer. So a lot of unlearning had to happen. Then I'm a creative person here. I'm able to understand the process and everything. And now I have to think of the business side of things as well. So majority of the times, and I was also running this bootstrap. So never went for funding also, because it's something that's personal, that I wanted to run this on my own and think of funding or everything later on. And so during this whole process, I realized that even for marketing, so we make courses, but we have to sell them. How do we sell them? Uh, I never wanted to be somebody who would go and say कि यार मेरा कोर्स खरीद ले, मेरा कोर्स खरीद ले. I don't want to do that. I never want to do that, because that's not me. I create courses that I know for sure will help students. So I then understood that to be able to create that business around this, I need to logically look at what other businesses are doing, not in my domain, but other businesses. Simple example, I would say, Uber हम use करते हैं. You open the app, or Ola, and then you have an ad popping there. TVS का ad आ रहा है Uber पे या Ola पे. So the placement of the ad is very interesting. Mobility related. We are booking a cab or a bike. So interesting way of reaching to the audience, right? So I then thought of how I can apply that to my business. मेरे students कहाँ पे हैं? How can I place my content there? Never courses, never products, but my content, so that they just know that this is a valuable content, an authentic content, because I'm a designer myself. I've been through that journey. So that is how I've mostly whatever I am right now, whatever the business acumen that I have right now is developed because of that. I've learned a lot of things from tea stalls also. So you go to a tea stall. I don't drink tea. My friends do. So कब चला जाता था. And टी स्टॉल के पास 3-4 स्टॉल्स हैं वहाँ पे, कियोस्क हैं. एक ने पंखा लगा दिया तो सब वहाँ जाके खड़े हो गए, है ना. So that's a puller, crowd puller for him. It's smart. So what can I do? What can I offer? So these small things that I've picked up, and इंडिया के स्ट्रीट मार्केट पे चले जाएंगे ना, इतनी मार्केटिंग कहीं नहीं सीख सकता मैं जितनी मैंने वहाँ सीख ली है.
There's a very interesting observation about here that you've learned stuff from tea stalls as well. In fact, my next question to you was about marketing, but I think you've already answered, quite a bit of it. Let's talk about your course creation on Graphy. So, as an experienced designer, what has inspired you to venture into course creation? I mean, which you already answered, but how has your journey on the Graphy platform been so far?
Right. So I think the platform is really nicely done. The first and the foremost thing any person who wants to create courses is concerned about, मेरा course safe है या नहीं. So that was one thing that I found all throughout this journey. Even though there were students who would use third-party apps and download some PDFs, but they would never be able to open that because it was protected. And apart from that, just the experience of the platform, it's actually very good. For some design exams, we have sketches, uploading sketches, we have to show them some scenarios. So we were able to incorporate that also into this platform. So that's something that I did not find in any other platforms when I was looking at other options. And also to interact with the students. There are different channels now that I can interact with students. and different types of courses. It could be a mock test, time based, multiple attempts, it could be live tests. So we've tried a lot of bunch of courses, and I think we wouldn't be able to come to this conclusion. Okay, right now we have set of courses that work for us. अगर ग्राफी शायद ये नहीं देता तो I don't think we'd be able to figure out what works for us. Yeah.
Have you used Graphy's analytics? Has that helped you?
Yes, I have used analytics, and it helps us to understand, first of all, कितने लोग आ रहे हैं. So starting from there, top of the funnel, and then we understand conversions कितने हैं, and what did we do to get those conversions. So it had actually helped us. Just yesterday we had an internal meeting and we took some decisions based on those analytics. कहाँ से आ रहे हैं, and then YouTube से आ रहे हैं, or WhatsApp forwards, or whatever it is.
अच्छा.
So that helps us to identify those channels and focus more on those areas.
All right. I know that Graphy has various interactive elements, like there are assignments, quizzes and stuff. So how would you say that has enhanced the learning experience आपके students के लिए?
So whenever we talk about learning experience, though it is an online platform, but Indian mentality तो ये होता है कि मुझे ना personally आके कोई बता दे तो ज़्यादा satisfaction है. Schools में class tests होते हैं, right? So we had quizzes every week scheduled, and
Right.
we'd also invite parents to be part of the sessions. We also had sessions where were whiteboard sessions, just like a blackboard in the class, right? So we used to mimic that on digital platforms. So all these things have literally helped us to create that connect with the students, and also allowing the students to speak during the sessions is also very important, in my experience at least, because it shouldn't be one-way traffic. And interactive in the sense of platform as well, and interactive sessions also is what I would say worked for us.
कभी ऐसा हुआ, I mean, every content creator has faced that, where then some negative comments will come in or kuch, and have you let that affect you, and have you got over that now, in terms of can you ignore them now?
Okay, I have a different take on this. So after masters also, I applied for a lot of jobs, as any person would do. So I got a lot of rejections. तो मैंने कहा यार इतने rejections तो आ रहे हैं. Usually my instinct was to, I don't want to delete these rejections, I want to keep them. So I said, okay, I'll create a folder saying rejections on Gmail, and I'll like push everything there. I still have that folder.
Wow.
And the same thing I did with this. So there were a few negative comments in the beginning. So I said, इसको let's not studio के YouTube से नहीं. I'll use my own personal Gmail account, YouTube का, and then I'll comment it from my personal account.
अच्छा.
So I went to those negative comments. So one of the things, something that I remember now, one of the episodes, there was a lot of background noise starting में, podcast में. Background music डाला था which wasn't good. उस time पे समझ नहीं आ रहा था कि क्या करना है, चलो डाल दिया. ठीक है. Now अब वहाँ पे there were very rude comments. गालियाँ दे रहे हैं, कुछ भी कर रहे हैं. मैंने कहा ठीक है सर, अगले बार से हटा देंगे.
But yeah, you took it the way कि अगली बार से हटा देंगे. And this is out to all the content creators who are watching this episode, that getting used to failures is required in content creation as well. If you are in Bangalore for that matter, try going out to the streets and getting an auto for yourself. You will face 10 rejections for every yes. That'll get you used to rejections if you already are not. Moving on to the next one, as a digital landscape, what are your thoughts about the future of content creation and future of online education for that matter?
Interesting question. So after COVID, I thought everything would go offline, but I'm still here. I'm still teaching students online. So, reaching, again, the same thought, reaching people beyond my location, only digital platforms can enable that. Right? And just that one reason is enough to believe that digital platforms will stay. All the other things are like add-ons. We can talk about n number of things, but just this one reason is good enough to understand that okay, digital platforms are there to stay. And as the tech is evolving, we see that more immersive learning is going to come into play in the future soon. So we have to evolve as content creators. So right now, what has worked in the past years, maybe that will not work 3 years down the line, 5 years down the line. There has to be some level up that has to happen. So this platform is definitely going to stay. That is for sure. And it will enable us to reach more people for sure. But how we make that happen, how we leverage that is what the content creator, I should be able to do that. And for that, I need to be relevant. So relevancy is the key here. Yeah.
So, being relevant on social media, what do you recommend? Do you recommend putting out a lot of content on a daily basis, or at a gap of 2 3 weeks, being extremely regular with your content, or do you focus more on the quality than quantity?
So, a couple of things. As per se, I do not have millions and millions of followers. My domain is very, let's say, it's a niche, small niche. Okay, and I've somehow managed to create some impact in that niche. So that was mostly because of how I am as a person. I would respond to every single inquiry, and like they always say, the founders need to be at the forefront of the sales. And I've had thousands of conversations with parents where they call to talk about courses. So that gives us the real image or real idea of the scenario, present scenario, कि क्या problems हैं. अगर if I'm asking my counselor to do that right now, the counselor might be or might not be equipped to understand or extrapolate things from those conversations. What decisions need to be taken moving forward in the courses. So understanding that end user, मेरे केस में courses तो students के लिए हैं, but खरीदते parents हैं, right? So understanding that, and that information helps me stay relevant. Combining it with my other knowledge of the domain, which has to keep on improving and increasing, and also how all the industries and tech is evolving. So everything combines and helps me to stay relevant.
When you talked about learning something from your own podcast by interviewing people and talking to them, I remember that one wise person, I forgot who the person is, had once said that if you want to learn something better, you have to try and teach it to others. That's apparently how you learn stuff better. Has that happened to you as well while you were teaching stuff to students, online classes, courses? Have you understood a topic better just for yourself?
Yes, of course. It has happened to me multiple times. So every year, new students come, and the topic might remain the same for the exam. But each and every session I take about that topic, it has different examples, it has different learnings, and then I look back and say that, यार last year तो ऐसे नहीं पढ़ाया था मैंने ये. And last year, students were not asking these kind of questions. Students are asking deeper questions now. So it definitely has taught me quite a lot. And I think basics जो होते हैं ना, for every field, we look at bigger enterprises and companies also. They stick to that basics, to the core, and they do it so well that it just looks amazing. I mean, the execution is beautiful.
Okay. We're still talking about your future. Any exciting projects that are coming up you want to announce about that, or any collaborations on the horizon? Anything you want to announce on the podcast?
Definitely new podcast episodes coming up, which would be uh, the upcoming one. I can say that is with head of design from Cred.
Right. So I don't know when this is going out for people who are watching it. So it's possible that by the time you are watching this, his episode of the person with cred, that might already be up. So we have to go ahead to his podcast and take a look at it. Yes, and you also have that 50, which also might be out by the time this podcast is out.
Yes. So I would be also working on a book right now.
Oh.
It's been 1.5 years that I'm working on it right now. So constantly evolving, but yeah, something exciting definitely coming up soon.
All right. Any memorable, just we want to, before we let you go, we want to hear a little bit about your success stories. Any memorable success story और ऐसा कोई moment आपको याद है when you look back and said कि यार I have made it, कुछ तो कर रहा हूँ. Like the moment you mentioned about that Red Bull competition, उस तरह का moments in your content creation journey.
So आजकल जो generation है, the Gen Z and all of that, it's a different dynamics altogether. So the kind of mental pressures that they have is different. हम millennials को शायद देख के भी लगेगा कि यार everything is served on a platter for them, but they have their own challenges because they are brought up in certain way and they have exposure to a different set of things that we did not even have when we were their age. So content creation में all the posts that I do on Instagram, something that recently I've learned also, and this I've seen is that many of the aspirants reach out DMs me. They get a little expressive because of the type of content that I post.
Right.
So I talk about not how to make sketches, but I'll talk about if you're tearing your sketchbook off, what is it that you need to do. So I connected with them at an emotional level, and to be, I think, able to do that, it required a lot of work. But I'm happy that I did that, and that's when I felt like, okay, I understand a design aspirant, and that made me happy.
Okay, let's start with the Spotify thing. So, you are among the top 50 hosts of Spotify. Can you talk a little bit about that? I have a basic idea about it, but if you could tell us a little more in details about it.
Right. So last year, Spotify had this level up program where they shortlisted 50 podcasters in India and from different domains. And my podcast, Detox, the design podcast, was the only design podcast that was selected in the program. And we had a series of 12 weeks of mentorship from the industry experts, storytelling, editing, scripting, etc., 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 everything about podcasting. And it was quite useful because till then it was all intuition. कि करे जा रहे हैं, ठीक है, ये कर लेते हैं, वो कर लेते हैं. But then after that Spotify Level Up program, there was some sort of a, let's say, what do you call, a way of doing things. That's when it all happened for me. So this was very informative sessions, and the network was good. So I could learn from all the fellow podcasters as well. किसी का क्रिकेट पॉडकास्ट है, किसी का हॉरर स्टोरीज का पॉडकास्ट है. So how they tell the story is different. So how do I tell the story to make sure that I retain the audience? How do I make it entertaining? How do I make it engaging? How can I interact with my audience? That all things, those things I've picked up. And one of the small applications that I've done, picking up from that and applying it to my business, was now we share memes on our Instagram channel based on, contextual memes and everything. That also lightens up the mood a bit for the aspirants.
Uh, we will go back to that teaching bit of yours where you pursued your design course in Italy, and then why did you decide to come back to India and then teach and disperse knowledge here? Why didn't you probably stay in Italy?
Right. So Italy was amazing to start with.
From a design perspective or the country?
Both, actually, both. So I'm somebody who would not want to limit myself uh, in communicating with people. So I ended up learning the language also, Italian, and it opened me up to different things, their culture, the songs, movies, food, jokes, कैसे मारते हैं वो लोग. So a lot of different things that I picked up because of just language. And talking about also design for that matter and education for that matter. So we had a lot of visiting faculties who would, uh, designers who worked on BMWs, designers who worked on Lamborghinis would come and teach us design. So I did my majors in transportation design. I would design interiors and exteriors of cars. So they're very rich experience. Our professor, one of them was Japanese, who had worked on 30 plus production cars for Nissan. So it's amazing knowledge. Did my master's thesis with Suzuki, and we were directly reporting to design director of Suzuki Europe. So the inputs that we would get were completely different. And I did apply to jobs after that, but due to some rules and regulations in different countries, the visas didn't work out. So two options were Sweden and France that I had, but again visas didn't work out. So I had to. I was dejected when I was coming back to India because 2 years I was there, and बीच में मैं वापस भी नहीं आया. मेरे को लगा कि यार time मुझे waste नहीं करना है. I want to make the most of it. So I stayed in Europe for a couple of years, and आने के बाद for the first couple of months I was completely dejected, completely thinking कि क्या कर रहा हूँ मैं यहाँ पे. Why did why didn't those visas work out? I did everything that I could do. Those are the things that are out of my control. अब मैं क्या करूँ? अब मैं क्या करूँ? Right? So then I started looking at going to these art galleries where I had exhibited before, just to feel good about it, or just to revisit those places. I started going to those places. And then I did travel to Chennai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, just to understand how these exhibition space was doing, and meeting a few people, understanding how the design spaces, artist spaces. I did a few workshops after that, illustration workshops, doodling workshops, with a few of them. And then after a few months, I decided, okay, if I want to start doing something here in India, then it has to be my own setup, because I want to make an impact. Yes. Also, the kind of education that I've had is different, and India में जो है वो different mindset होगा. I never thought I'll take up a job, but I ended up taking up one. So in 2000, I think 1920, there was one competition that happened for illustrators and graphic designers, organized by Indiefolio Network, and I was in the top 5 उसमें. So then again sparked something कि अच्छा क्या करना है अब, like what do I want to do. Briefly, I was a creative head for an electric cycle startup based out of Chennai. Lot of complications there with the product, but the design was good. We were looking at the design. There was another designer working on it, but that for XYZ reasons, that product never saw the it never got launched. Yeah. And after that, I was offered the role of a senior art director in one of the animation studios in Delhi, Greater Kailash mein. And I walked into it. I said, I don't have any experience in making videos or scripting, whatever. Why did you reach out? Like, it was something they reached out to me for. They said, no, you have a good visual storytelling going on. I think you can translate scripts into visuals. I said, that's doable. That's something that I can think of doing. Not that I'm an expert at it, but yeah, I can try. So that worked, and within 35 days I understood, यार यहाँ पे तो बहुत काम कर रहा हूँ मैं कि इतना काम मैं अपने खुद के स्टार्टअप पे कर लूँ. तो I think I'll invest this energy that I have now and this time that I have now into something, into building something of my own that I can call my own thing, you know. So I quit in 35 days, and during that 35 days, 2 हफ्ते के बाद I was already figuring out कि स्टूडियो कैसे रजिस्टर करते हैं, GST चाहिए नहीं चाहिए. So I did all that process sitting in their office and finished it. And the moment I like after that 35 days, the first project we worked was with Swiggy on a doodle campaign. So that's how the journey started. And the teaching side of it, I was already teaching a few aspirants, but unofficially. Calls पे बता दिया कि हाँ ऐसे कर लो वैसे कर लो, because a lot of students would reach out to me because I had studied in Italy and that university. So they would definitely want me to do something in that area. Then I understood कि हाँ ठीक है. That's when I started going to schools and CBSE, try to understand the problem. So whatever I do, I think I do a lot of groundwork. So वो groundwork करने के बाद then I decided, okay, this has to be there. इसमें करते हैं, इस पे effort लगा सकते हैं. That's how it all started. Yeah.
You know, this story is a great example of sometimes in life they say that failure opens the door to success. So when you had that dejection, had that disappointing experience of वो visa नहीं लगा and then you couldn't stay there and you had to come back to India, और मेरे साथ ऐसा क्यों हुआ? If probably that visa thing had happened, maybe you wouldn't have been in the place that you are, which is a much better place today, for that matter. Okay, final question before I let you go. If there is one bit of advice you would give to design students and one bit of advice you would give to people who want to be content creators.
Right. So design students, I would say, be honest is one thing. Right now what has started happening is IITs have started teaching design, and they have definite entrance exams. Majority of the students are flocking to IITs because of यार IIT में जाना है, you know. So stick to design, understand design. Preparation exam के लिए नहीं, preparation design के लिए करो, बाकी सब हो जाएगा. That is one thing strongly that I would recommend to design aspirants and students. And to the content creators, again, honesty goes a long way. Create what you want to create and create what is relevant for your audience. Understanding what your audience needs is very important. And don't chase numbers, because I don't have great following. I mean, millions नहीं है मेरे पास इतने, but I'm still able to, let's say, survive at least in this space, you know. If not like I'm doing great, but I'm surviving in this space. So numbers के पास मतलब don't run after that, don't chase that. And a content piece that you thought would do well didn't do well doesn't mean that you'd stop.
Right.
Doesn't mean that you did something wrong. Doesn't mean that the audience is not relating to you. There are n number of reasons why it didn't work. Algorithm changes, timing changes, some other occasion that is there, some festival is there. Maybe traffic उस दिन site पे नहीं था, क्या करोगे? Right? Some other, एक मान लो इंडिया पाकिस्तान मैच चल रहा है, nobody is there on Instagram. So we don't know what happened. So consistency is the key, is what I understood.
All right, Sanjay Reddy, thank you so much for giving us your time. Before I let you go, one last question. How was it being on this podcast?
Oh, it was amazing, actually. I think I just realized I've never spoken about my journey this much. It was amazing, and the wonderful host you are.
Thank you. Thank you.
I
so much.
actually, I tell you this, I think I picked up a couple of things now, learning from you.
You picked up a couple of things by talking about your own journey, like, हाँ ये तो मैंने किया है.
No, no, no. The way you talk, it's very interesting how you do it.
Thank you so much. Very kind of you. Thank you so much for being kind enough with your time as well, Sanjay Reddy. It was a pleasure having you on Grow with Graphy.
Thank you. Likewise.